Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Business Daily. I'm Jaein in Seoul. Let's get started with a glimpse of today's highlights. Korea's consumer prices rose in December on the back of a rise in prices of industrial goods and financial services. China's travel authority reportedly allowed major travel agencies to resume tours to Korea amid eased diplomatic tensions between the two countries over that. These stories and more coming right up. Korea's consumer prices shot up in 2017 at their fastest pace in 5 years on the back of rising oil, agriculture, and livestock prices. Our Kim Hae-sung starts us off.
South Korea's consumer prices accelerated in December by their fastest pace in 3 months, marking a rebound from November's 1.3%, which was the lowest gain in 2017. Statistics Korea said consumer prices went up by 1.5% on year in December. Prices of fresh food went down, with vegetable prices plunging 16% on year. But petroleum prices jumped 7.5% in December, raising prices for petrochemical and other industrial goods. Overall, consumer prices for the whole of 2017 jumped 1.9%, sharply up from a 1% on-year rise in 2016, marking the steepest gain in 5 years. Agriculture and livestock products went up 5.5% on year in 2017, mainly due to unfavorable weather conditions between July and September. Petroleum goods also jumped 1.4% on year as global oil prices hit a 2-year high later this year on supply cuts by major oil exporters and growing demand from Asia. Service prices went up by 2% on year, driving up prices by 1%. Core CPI, which excludes oil and agricultural products, rose 1.5% from a year ago. Kim Hae-sung, Business Daily.
Some good news for Korea's tourism industry. Beijing has reportedly given the green light to major travel agencies in China to normalize the sale of group tours to Korea. Such travel packages had been banned in protest of Seoul's deployment of a U.S. THAAD missile defense system. Here's our Shin Se-min with more.
Making an about-face, Beijing's travel authority has reportedly given the go-ahead on tours to South Korea. Diplomatic sources in Beijing say the measure was given orally and that 10 travel agencies, both state and privately run, were called in for the notification. However, cruise tours and chartered flights are still reportedly banned. Restrictions on Chinese travelers to South Korea had been lifted last month in the wake of eased tensions between South Korea and China over Seoul's deployment of the U.S. THAAD anti-missile system. But that measure had been short-lived as restrictions for residents in Beijing and Shandong province were put back in place after just 3 weeks as authorities tried to rein in the heated promotion of group package tours. Now, with China back on track, industry experts say Shandong is expected to follow suit next month. In the latest meeting, the Beijing Travel Authority is said to have instructed the travel agencies to refrain from massive promotional campaigning and limit sales to offline services. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
With the year coming to an end, Korea's rival political parties have agreed to hold the last general session of 2017 this afternoon. The agreement came after leaders of the 3 major parties and the Assembly Speaker spent hours locked in talks over contentious issues such as amending the Constitution. At 5 p.m., lawmakers will hold a full floor vote on 32 non-contentious bills focused on people's livelihoods. The parties have agreed to extend the mandate of a special parliamentary committee on revising the Constitution for 6 months until June of next year. The ruling Democratic Party of Korea had been pushing for a 2-month extension, while the main opposition Liberty Korea Party wanted 6 months. It's seen as a tactic to disturb the ruling party's plans to put the constitutional revision on the ballot during next June's local elections. Christmas may be over, but some have received a late but very special holiday gift. For the first time since President Jaein took office, the Moon government has granted special pardons to over 6,000 people, mostly ordinary citizens and the disenfranchised. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
The government granted special pardons to 6,444 people on Friday.
The government has decided to give special pardons to those convicted of minor crimes who have serious illnesses or who are parents of young children.
Over 5,000 people on probation will have their remaining sentences dropped. Around 1,000 people who are currently in prison will have their jail terms reduced or terminated. The beneficiaries also include 25 protesters who were convicted after a deadly clash between police and residents who were opposed to a redevelopment project in Seoul's Yongsan district in 2009. The violent clash on the roof of a building had left 5 protesters and 1 police officer dead, with dozens injured. Former lawmaker Chung Bong-ju was the only politician included in the pardons. Chung was convicted for violating election rules after making allegations ahead of the 2007 presidential election against then-candidate former President Lee Myung-bak. Chung had claimed Lee was the real owner of the financial firm BBK, which was responsible for stock price rigging. The government did not release jailed business tycoons or violent criminals.
We have not given special pardons to government officials, economic and violent criminals to maintain law and order.
In Korea, the government traditionally grants such amnesties on nationally significant days. Kim Young-gin, Business Daily.
Now, we reported yesterday that a surprise announcement by the government shook the world's 3rd biggest market for cryptocurrencies. And in response to extreme volatility and a very uncertain future, Seoul's latest measures are designed to curb speculation on Bitcoin. Our Lee Ji-won tells us more.
After a meeting of related ministries Thursday, the Korean government announced additional measures to regulate speculation in cryptocurrency.
Virtual currencies are not legal tender, and despite numerous warnings over the sudden ups and downs in price, fraud, and hacking, the prices of most virtual currencies are much higher on current exchanges than in other countries, and speculation is getting out of control. That's why the government has decided that we can no longer sit and watch.
One of the major changes in the measures is a requirement for investors to use only verified bank accounts, and they'll have to use the same bank that the exchange uses. It plans to require real-name transactions in cryptocurrency trading starting next month, banning the use of anonymous virtual accounts. This is to boost transparency and ban speculative demand from teenagers and foreigners. The issuance of virtual accounts is banned effective immediately, and work will be done to switch over the existing users of virtual accounts. Another change will be a crackdown and tougher punishments for cryptocurrency-related crimes. The government will set out a plan for its crackdown on cryptocurrency crimes for next year, and crimes such as price manipulation will be treated with the maximum penalty allowable by the courts. Banks will also have a greater obligation to prevent money laundering on cryptocurrency exchanges. And to cool down speculation, the Korea Communications Commission will regulate indiscriminate online advertisements for cryptocurrency. The Ministry of Justice for the first time officially proposed enacting special laws to shut down the crypto exchanges, and the government said it'll for now leave all options open while keeping a close eye on the speculation and response measures to crime. Meanwhile, Seoul's crypto exchanges saw prices fall off a cliff as much as 16% after the announcement, causing worry over the government's intervention in the market. Lee Ji-won, Business Daily.
Korea's review of a controversial bilateral agreement on Japan's wartime sexual slavery has put an enormous strain on the two countries' already fragile relations. It had been hoped that the upcoming Pyeongchang Winter Olympics here in Korea would be a way to normalize diplomatic ties. But those plans seem to be in jeopardy, as Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is expected to reject an invitation from Seoul to join the Games as a special guest. Japanese media reported on Friday that Tokyo's government is delaying its decision on whether to attend the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. This follows earlier reports that Abe visiting Pyeongchang may be difficult, and that Tokyo is closely watching Korea's next move on the wartime sexual slavery issue. However, the Japanese leader has yet to personally respond to President Moon's invitation to the opening ceremony. And we arrive at the final Friday of 2017 and our last installment of Global Business News with our Eunice Kim joining us in the studio today. Hello, Eunice.
Hello.
All right, so there's so much that happened this year, from shifting geopolitics to global risks and stock market rallies that just wouldn't let up.
Yeah, you'll remember we started off the year with so much uncertainty, but curiously not a lot of volatility. A few people likely could have predicted how the year turned out, mostly on the up for the global economy at large. We take a look back.
It was a year full of surprises. 2017 kicked off with the inauguration of an unlikely U.S. president.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Whose threat to impose a 45% tax on Chinese imports never quite materialized. What did, however, were promises of investment from multinationals into America, as the unconventional Twitter president preached his all-encompassing policy of America first. The White House accused other nations, among them China, Japan, Korea, and Germany, of devaluing their currencies to gain a competitive trade edge. The U.S. dollar suffered its worst January in 30 years and never quite recovered from the pressure. The dollar index, weighing the greenback against a basket of currencies, has shed more than 9% this year, on track for its most significant yearly slide since 2003. As the Trump administration pulled out of the massive TPP trade deal and the Paris Climate Accord, China stepped up to fill the void. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, President Xi Jinping made a fierce defense of free trade and a case for Chinese leadership. A stance reiterated at China's 19th National Congress later in October and enshrined in the Xi Jinping school of thought. The philosophy could be implemented into China's state constitution in 2018 as Beijing makes amends with ASEAN states over their territorial disputes in the South China Sea and strengthens diplomatic relations with Tokyo.
We already know you. Thank you and goodbye.
In March, the UK triggered Article 50, beginning the process of leaving the European Union, and managed to get through divorce terms, though the heavier lifting still lies ahead. North Korea test-fired its largest missile yet, the Hwasong-15, presenting itself as a real threat to the continental U.S. for the first time. It moved United Nations to issue 4 resolutions against the reclusive state. Despite the fast-moving state of affairs and associated risks, markets haven't seen a better year in years. Korea's Kospi Index climbed 22% in 2017, its best performance since 2010. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index outshined in the Asian region, up 35.7% year-to-date, thanks to strong performance by mainland stocks like Tencent and Alibaba, both of which have nearly doubled in share price this year. Numbers that still pale in comparison to the fourth quarter rush to Bitcoin. The volatile cryptocurrency that started the year, would you believe it, at under $1,000 is still keeping a level of above $14,000, despite the recent sell-off triggered by fears the Korean government could apply some heavy-handed moves, including shutting down crypto exchanges.
And of course, many of these themes will definitely continue into 2018. Now, with investors on the hunt for a good deal, the M&A activity this year kept on pace as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There were a few last-minute consolidations that capped off 2017 on the other side of $3.5 trillion. The month of December brought 3 multi-billion-dollar deals inked. You'll remember Disney agreed to take on major parts of 21st Century Fox for $66 billion. America's largest drugstore chain, CVS Health, did acquire healthcare insurer Aetna for $69 billion. And over in Australia, global shopping center brand Westfield went to a French commercial real estate giant for $24.7 billion. So All in all, $3.5 trillion in deal-making were inked this year, according to Reuters data. That is a 1% dip from last year, but also the fourth straight year that M&A surpassed that $3 trillion mark. A separate study showed the world's wealthiest people became $1 trillion richer this year, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. That is a figure 4 times the gain gathered last year. The figure was reached on the back of the global stock market rally. MSCI's World Equity Index, meanwhile, did track bourses in 47 countries. That rose to 22% this year.
All right, and looking forward, there's a new study that showed that growth momentum is gathering here in Asia.
Right. So if this year taught us anything, really, June, it is that world events are difficult to predict, if not impossible, but why not project? According to the London-based Center for Economics and Business Research, it sees Asian economies taking a bigger role in global economic leadership, with China set to overtake the U.S. as the world's #1 within 14 years. Its table of predictions put 3 of the 4 largest economies by 2032 in the continent of Asia, that being China, India, and Japan. CEBR went on to project India would advance to the top spot by the second half of the century. Meanwhile, you'll see that South Korea is on there, as is Indonesia. They are thought to be making it into the top 10 as European economies, as well as the U.S. and Canada's economies, take a back step.
All right, thank you so much for that wrap-up, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
The H5 strain of bird flu has been detected in duck farms in the southwestern region of Korea. According to the Agriculture Ministry, farms have reported suspicious symptoms of AI to the local government, including less intake of food, abnormal green droppings, and death. After this was reported on late Thursday evening, the government has issued a standstill on roughly 14,000 duck farms, related personnel, and vehicles for a full 24 hours starting from noon on Friday. Whether the disease is highly pathogenic is set to be determined in 2 to 3 days' time. With lawsuits piling up around the world, Apple has issued an apology to consumers over the slowdown of its older iPhone models. However, the tech giant reiterated that it never intended to shorten the lifespan of older iPhones, and the slowdown feature was to prevent unexpected shutdowns due to degrading batteries. To make amends, Apple said it will reduce the price of iPhone battery replacements from the current $79 to $29 starting in late January until the end of next year. Apple also said it will issue an iOS update with new features to give users clearer information about the health of their batteries. Ultraviolet LED sterilization products are growing in popularity. As manufacturers continue to find ways to make them smaller, various household and industrial applications are being envisioned. Our Elliot Kim with more.
Escalator handrails are some of the dirtiest public objects. Every time a hand touches it, a transfer of microbes occurs. But the problem is, they're not the easiest objects to clean. But one company has introduced a new machine that attaches above handrails and uses ultraviolet ray-emitting LEDs to clean them. There's also a skincare brush that has a small LED embedded in a cap. When you attach the cap after using it, the UV LED activates to kill the bacteria on the brush. A third company's products feature a sterilizing LED to purify water instead of using chemicals. All of these products use specific UV wavelengths that destroy the bacteria's DNA.
With UV LEDs, a specific bacteria-killing wavelength is produced. Those wavelengths are effective in killing not only bacteria, but also mold and viruses.
Existing UV sterilization products use mercury lamps that pose heavy metal contamination risks if they are damaged. These LEDs create little pollution, are highly power efficient, and small, allowing them to be attached to more products. The global market for UV products is expected to grow accordingly. Sitting at just $270 million this year, it's expected to grow nearly fourfold to $1 billion in 2021.
There's no replacement for UV. Take humidifiers, for example. The only other way to sterilize them is to take them apart and clean them. UV products can only grow further.
UV products are currently used mostly in household applications, but as development of stronger intensity LEDs continues, its range of applications could expand across a much wider scale. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
Korean scientists have developed a new way to produce environmentally friendly hydrogen. It utilizes microorganisms in the sea, and it's an area that the government will invest into for further development and commercialization. Our Yoo Jun-hee has the story.
A newly revealed hydrogen-powered car developed by a Korean company. Its fuel efficiency and low-emission features make it an ideal future-forward vehicle. But in reality, securing hydrogen as fuel is easier said than done. This is because 96% of the nearly 2 million tons of hydrogen produced in Korea annually is obtained from fossil fuel sources. Its high cost and possibility of depletion are real concerns. It's in this context that Korean scientists have discovered a new way to extract hydrogen from biological materials. It borrows from the sea. A marine microorganism called the Na1 serves as a catalyst. Mixed with carbon monoxide and seawater, it's able to separate the hydrogen molecules from the remaining carbon dioxide in a unique chemical reaction, the first such successful demonstration in the world.
The principle of producing hydrogen from carbon monoxide and forming acid as raw materials has been investigated and was published in the scholarly journal Nature.
Korea's Oceans Ministry earlier this month announced an investment of some $11 million over 3 years to commercialize the process and make it a viable alternative to conventional hydrogen production. The demonstration plant is set to be completed by 2019 with a capacity to produce 480 tons of biohydrogen per year. That's enough to power 4,800 hydrogen cars traveling some 10,000 kilometers per year. The conversion would come at a cost of about $3.44 per kilogram of biohydrogen, about the midpoint of the cost of production from fossil fuel sources. Over the coming years, the government is looking to expand the capacity from 480 tons to 5,000 tons annually, given production prices are set to fall as technology is improved with commercialization. Yoo Jun-hee, Business Daily.
Car restoration projects to refurbish old vehicles are already popular in places like Japan and Europe, and it's starting to pique the interest of car owners here in Korea as well. Our Lee Ju-young has more.
A 17-year-old truck that weighs roughly a ton is being completely dismantled, save for its bare frame. Now, 20 mechanics will embark on a mission to breathe new life into this vehicle over a month-long period. This is thanks to Hyundai Motor's car restoration project that was launched in the beginning of this year. The owner is thoroughly impressed with the result.
I can't believe this was my old car. It's so clean, I don't think I can use this for work anymore.
Korea's second largest car maker, Kia Motors, has also been operating this kind of remodeling service for the past 3 years now under a specific theme each year. With the renovated vehicles being enhanced in performance and design, Kia says it is seeing an increasing number of applicants each year.
There was a tenfold increase in the number of applicants this year.
Experts say all these are strategies to bolster customer loyalty. While this practice is already quite common in places like Europe and Japan, where car owners go without changing their vehicles for a long period of time, the trend is starting to catch on in Korea as well. Specialized companies like Mohenik Garages are also starting to pop up as well. Some customers are gladly putting themselves on waiting lists lasting over a year to give their old cars a makeover.
The classic car is not your ordinary car, but it's a culture for individual satisfaction and possession.
With the history of Korea's automobile industry hitting its half-century mark, the perceptions towards automobiles are starting to change, making the industry even more vibrant as a result. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
And that wraps up the final edition of Business Daily. It's been quite the ride for our team and I, but it's always been a privilege to be part of bringing the day's top business stories to you for the past 3 years. So we thank all of our viewers here in Korea and around the world. Thanks for watching and supporting us Business Daily. And we'll be seeing you right back here on Arirang for more up-to-date news from Korea and abroad. Until then, goodbye.